It looks like, were you playing trombone in the band here? Or what's going on here?
They tried to get me to play trombone, but I was on traveling at the time. This picture actually comes from Guca, Serbia. And for a lot of folks, one, they may or may not know where Serbia is as a country. It's one of the countries that were part of the former Republic of Yugoslavia. And so after the breakup of Yugoslavia, each of the countries, in a very interesting setup, sort of self-designed their borders. And so I happened to be in Belgrade, because it's one of those things. I was on a train.
You just automatically land where the party's at, right?
Well,
Some would say.
it finds me, I
It
think.
finds you, yes.
And
You're like a magnet for that.
And so I was traveling throughout, the former republics, and found myself in Belgrade. I was staying at a hostel because, again, I try and just sort of inexpensively travel and have the least amount of footprint while having an opportunity to meet people. And as I was meeting people for those beverages again, it's the strangest thing.
I see a pattern of behavior here.
People kept saying, you must go to Guca. And I'm like, where's Guca? And they said, don't matter. Go to the bus station, tell them you want a ticket to Guca. And I was like, what is this Guca you speak of?
Right.
They said, it's the world's largest trumpet festival. And I said, oh, okay. I don't read Cyrillic language because in Serbia they use Cyrillic language. And so I meandered down to the bus station and stepped up to the window, and nobody really spoke English, but I just said, Guca, one. And the woman's eyes lit up, and so she took a minimal amount of money from me. She hands me this ticket and points to go stand over there. And so here I am with my ticket, and I'm like, I guess I'm going to Guca.
Looking at my Gucci, it's about that time.
Exactly. And so I get on this bus, and as we stopped in all these towns, more and more people are getting on this bus. And, I'm not so sure that we weren't over capacity, but we drive into this sort of valley, and here would be what I would come to find out would be around 200,000 of my newest friends. And I'm sure that I had to be the only person from the United States there. I get off the bus, there's gypsies dancing, there's these trumpets, and there's these bands, which sort of reminded me a little bit of mariachis, because a lot of horn.
Or New Orleans.
Or New Orleans. But every place you go, And so as the sun was going down, I might have had some local beverages of the local folks, and I was meeting all these people. And as people would talk to me, they'd realize that I was from the United States, so they would insist. And I mind you, they would insist on buying me a shot of the local rakia.
This couldn't be good.
It was great, actually.
But did your liver rebel?
Well, that's later,
Okay.
But what I found myself is the night wore on, we're dancing, the local dance. And then I started thinking, I don't even know where I'm at, in this country.
I've been in my country and been in that position, but rock and roll's a hell of a, it's an occupation.
It is. And so I'm like, where am I going to sleep tonight? And I wasn't getting too nervous, but I noticed that buses kept coming in packed.
Yeah.
But I realized that there weren't very many buses leaving with anybody. And so, I started to get a little worried around 10 o'clock at night. But they kept feeding me shots. And so I kept dancing.
All is good.
Well, around midnight rolls
and
around.
You'll sweat it out.
I'm starting to say, okay, where am I going to sleep?
That's how the story goes. You sweat it out.
You do sweat it out.
Yes.
And so I'm wondering where I'm going to sleep.
Yeah.
And so I went back to where the bus dropped me off, and I kept asking, Belgrade. And they said, no, you're in Guca. And I said, Belgrade, I need to get back to Belgrade. So I was getting ready to literally sleep in a field. Because, it sort of reminded me, had I been alive for Woodstock, it sort of had that kind of vibe. And,
hopefully you had a little bit more clothing on than they did at Woodstock.
Well, we'll just leave it at that. But, so I looked around and I was like, okay, I have a couple of options. One, I could sleep over here in this field. I could, saunter up to one of these young ladies who's, may offer me a place to sleep for the night. Or I need to figure out how to get out of here because, of course, I didn't pack anything in terms of a backpack, sleeping bag, nothing. And around 1 o'clock in the morning rolls around, and I keep asking, these buses that are arriving. I'm like, Belgrade, how do I get to Belgrade? And so they said, there's the bus at 2 o'clock. You must be here. And, so I stood there. I got on that first bus, and I was like, Belgrade. And they said, no, Belgrade. I said, no, Belgrade. So they just said, get on. And so they take me to this other city, which to this day, I don't know where I was at. It was probably 2 hours away from Guca. And they drop me at a station that's closed. Everything's in Cyrillic. And so literally that night I slept on a park bench inside that bus station. And around 5 o'clock in the morning, another bus comes. And, you know, I've ran with the bulls in Spain.
Mm-hmm.
It was a mad dash to get on that bus to get back to Belgrade.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I arrived back in Belgrade, miraculously, probably around 9 o'clock in the morning, I'm tired. I probably was sobering up. And I get back to my hostel, and the little woman at the front desk was like, "Oh, you went to Guca. How was it?"
Right.
And I looked at her, and I was so tired. I smiled, and I knew that I'd conquered Guca, and I went and I passed out for several hours. But what I've come to find out is that Miles Davis actually played there.
Wow.
Back in the day. And a quote from him, you know, I'll probably butcher it, but that he didn't know people could play trumpet like that. From a musical standpoint, phenomenal. From
Yeah.
a festival standpoint, amazing. Where it's at, no idea.
Well, one day we'll find it on a map.
We will.